Hi, everybody. Welcome to my first interview YouTube in a while. Today, I've got with me my friend and fellow writer, Xandra, the protagonist at Heroine Training. And we are here to talk today about budget travel. So I recently released a new book called The Nomadic Art of Budget Travel, which Xandra has so lovingly displayed. My biggest fan, number one fan. And I wanted to talk today to Xandra because she is also a writer and a traveler and a minimalist, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what makes the philosophy in my book a little bit different than some of the other books out there, which are more straight budget travel books. And that is going to make more sense, I think, as we keep talking. So what I mean by that is a lot of books are based solely on how you can reduce your costs, whereas what I really wanted to talk about is how traveling in a more minimalist way is both going to save you money and deepen your experiences. So welcome, Xandra. Thank you so much for having this chat with me. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about you and your travel lifestyle?
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. I am from the US and I moved here to the UK about 10 years ago now. And I just got really excited by my sudden proximity to so many new countries. And I made a goal from the first year that I moved here to visit a new country every year, which I have kept up with. And now that I've gotten into my groove of, okay, that is possible, miraculously, even last year in 2020, I managed to get to Poland at the very beginning of the year in time.
Nice.
Maybe not this year, we'll see. But other pandemic aside, I have been able to do it, and that has been just on its own amazing. And reading your book, Kayla, got me thinking about what I am really looking for out of that goal of visiting a new country, and how I can best align my visit and how I plan my trip with that desire to experience a different place and just be immersed in a culture that you can't just read about, you can't just hear people talking about and get a sense of it. You just have to go there, I've realized. And so I am excited to learn more from you about how to best tailor my trips, because I go on really short trips too, because your book is nomadic. It's about long-term travel, slow travel, and I want to embody that spirit while also not being away from my dog for too long.
Your dog is very cute. Yeah, I love that. I also came from Canada and lived in Europe for a few years, and it is so exciting. You can just go to so many extremely different places so easily. And yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because when I was writing the book, I was thinking about people who wanted to do longer term trips, not necessarily as long term as I do, which is kind of continuous, but at least a few weeks at a time to a few months to up to a few years. But you're not the first person I've heard from that's read the book and said, I know you said it's for long-term people, but actually I think this is really applicable to me too. So I was wondering if there was anything specific that you had pulled out of the book that you think you're going to apply to your next trip whenever that is possible.
So this is huge. For the first time ever, I am warmed up to the idea of couch surfing.
Yeah.
I had heard of the concept and was like, no, introvert. But it was really helpful hearing from you, with the caveat that you identify as an introvert as well, that actually this can be a really, not just an affordable option, which was the only selling point that I was really aware of for couch surfing, is you get to stay on someone's couch for free. But you make a really good case in the book for the immersive experience of finding the right person to befriend, basically, and hang out with and be introduced to the culture in the way that I will usually visit a friend of mine who lives in another country. And it's okay, best to hear from the person who lives there rather than stay in my little closed off private space and try to like research how to get that experience, it's like just there's a person that comes with the couch who you can talk to. I hadn't thought of it like that.
Yeah, that's funny. And I think a lot of people do just think of it as a free place to stay. And that's obviously not nice for anybody because, like, I don't want to welcome someone in my home that I don't know that just wants to crash on my couch. So, yeah, that cultural exchange part of it is like the most fun part. And it's funny because, yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I did it, it felt very scary as an introvert. But I don't know if you feel the same way, but as an introvert, I thrive way more talking to people one on one. Like, I don't do well at parties trying to like talk to a whole bunch of people at once. And especially when I first started backpacking and was staying at hostels, which I don't really do anymore. But when I was doing that more, like being at a hostel felt like going to a party, which is really fun sometimes, but could be exhausting. And then Couchsurfing felt like getting to meet one really cool person that I had pre-vetted and read their profile, and get to hang out with one on one. So it was actually like my introvert option when I first started traveling, which is quite funny because it's scary. So yeah, so I know that you are a minimalist in your life, and I very much admire that. I am I am kind of like a pseudo minimalist, I think, in that I was definitely not a minimalist like when I was in university in my younger years. And then I was forced to become a minimalist through travel, because I just had a backpack. I've now downsized to only traveling with carry on only. Um, but I still definitely struggle. I know that I'm happier when I have less stuff, but I definitely struggle with like getting rid of old things that are still in boxes at my parents' house. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how minimalism has impacted your life, and then if you see any parallels between kind of this immersive style of travel to like a more minimalist lifestyle.
I guess I started out the same as you, where moving over to the UK, it was really travel that forced me to become a minimalist. And I had this university situation where I had to move in and out of college 3 times a year. And I had international student storage, but it was very small. And so just to make my life less about packing and unpacking my things constantly, it really gets you thinking when you have to do that, of like, do I really need to hold on to this thing or
Mhm.
pack it and unpack it 3 times
Yeah.
a year? Really took me from like reading about minimalism online, because this was a pre Marie Kondo Netflix show time. It was like this
Wow.
obscure corner of the internet of like reading about people who backpacked around and owned 100 things and all of these different variations of minimalism that worked for different people.
Mhm.
So it was travel that really enticed me. I think there's the packing element. There's also the like lugging the suitcase through here Heathrow Airport that is
Yeah.
very convincing. So when I heard about your nomad lifestyle, I was like, how can you not be a minimalist when you're constantly on the go? It
Mhm.
just, so I want to hear more about that as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of travel, I like to both save money on upgrading luggage, because especially in Europe, you don't get a lot. You have to add on,
Yeah.
to get like reasonable amounts of luggage. So I like to take that on as a challenge of like, can I avoid the 30-pound bag fee and just travel with a handbag? And it
Mm.
turns out that I both can. It's like more of an integrated way of traveling if I'm visiting a friend and say like, can I borrow a towel? And it's like, um, it just gives me more time at my destination because I don't have to worry about going back and forth to where I'm staying. I can just stay out. One time I I think this was the lightest I ever traveled, was just like a large handbag, and the question was, could I get to Berlin to meet my friend and then take all of my stuff with me directly to the Lizzo concert? Or would we have to like go across town to hers to drop it off? And it's
Mm.
like, I would rather not spend like my first few hours in Germany, like on public transport going back and forth across the city, as
Mm.
lovely as that would be to experience. I want to like get to the area where the concert is going to be, and then have some time to walk around and just chill before. And we made it happen. It wasn't like, I wouldn't recommend just doing that in your hometown of like bringing a handbag full of luggage to a concert. But when you're traveling abroad, it was absolutely worth it to get a couple, get some more time to wander around.
Yeah, no, I think that is very similar to how I came to it. Because yeah, I knew I wanted to do after finishing university, and I worked for a couple of years and saved a bunch of money. I tell all the details of that in the book. And I really wanted to do this year-long backpacking trip. And so like I knew I was taking a backpack. I was going backpacking. So I fit enough stuff into this 80-liter backpack. So it was like pretty big, but like I could walk around with it, but it was checked bag for sure. And it was really hard. It took me months to pack and narrow down. And then I was like sad. It was like grief to leave and leave all my stuff behind, all my prized possessions. And I was so amazed at how quickly I adapted. Like within a couple months, I didn't care. I didn't remember what I had. I wasn't tempted to shop or buy anything because I didn't have anywhere to put it. And yeah, it really went from there. I think a huge part of it for me as well was that I am already a bad decision maker. And like when living a nomadic lifestyle and when traveling long term, you have to make a lot of decisions every day. Like there's no planned route every, like even now, like at first it was maybe every week I was finding a new place to stay. You know, now it's maybe every couple months I'm finding a new place to stay, potentially learning a new language, potentially booking transport. There's all these things that like if you just have a place that you live in, you don't have to decide every day. So getting to reduce the decision to be like, well, I only have 2 outfits that are appropriate for this climate zone. So you're wearing one of those, really reduced that amount of decision making. And then similar to you, I downsized to carry on only living in Europe and not wanting to have to pay the fees. And also it's just time-wise annoying to have to wait for your checked bag to come out. But I had done that while I had a base in Europe and then would go for a few weeks here or there with a checked bag. And then I left Europe and was planning 6 months in Latin America. And I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm only taking a carry-on bag. I don't want to have to deal with it. So then I did 6 months carry-on only, and it was, yeah, absolutely no problem. You know, you fill the space that you have, but I will put this video also on my blog, and I will include a photo of my very first backpacking trip where I've got like my big backpack and a big handbag and like a big floppy hat and my camera bag. It was like way too much stuff.
Did you notice that there was anything in that 6-month period of carry on only that like you felt like you were missing, that was like, oh, luxury item if I had another bag?
No, because I feel like the luxury items that I miss are like things that I wouldn't have taken anyways, like a big floofy pair of sweatpants or a floofy robe or floofy slippers, like things that wouldn't have been in a bigger bag anyways.
So no floof.
No floof, no floof, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I I think that the more climate zones you have to go through, the more challenging it is. So on that Latin America trip, I was mostly in hot places, but then I was in Cusco and Peru, which is quite chilly because it's elevated. And I always have base layers with me, merino wool base layers, but I did buy a little alpaca sweater while I was there also because it was quite chilly. And I always have a little down jacket also. So I'm like quite prepared to go through their climate zones. But if I was going to go to Iceland or Canada in winter, for example, I would not have been equipped for that in the carry-on bag unless I had just been carrying my coat around with me the whole time. So things like that, I'm happy to make like a one-off purchase while there and leave behind. But no, there was nothing in particular I missed. It was like hard for me to even remember what I had put in the bigger bag before.
I find a lot of just in case items get in, and more often than not, you don't need them. And if there is something you really need, there's usually a place to buy it from or someone to borrow it from. So it's, yeah, I've had the same experience, Kayla, of like, what would I have brought
Yeah.
if I had a bigger bag? I do have a question for you. And I think you mentioned this a little bit in your book about souvenirs, because traveling light has really changed my perspective on souvenirs and has actually lifted the pressure from like having to find something special to pick out. And so what I'll typically get as souvenirs is, if anything, something like small and consumable. I
Mm,
love to bring home like a special pasta from Italy or a special tea from Oxford.
mhm.
And then it's like, well, first of all, my bag smells like tea. So that's like kind of fun.
Yeah.
But also it like changes my perspective around like, I need to have this, amass this collection of things from around the world to like prove how cultured I am to
Right.
I don't know whom. But instead I like to bring home experiences. Do you
Mhm.
buy souvenirs ever?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I definitely used to, and it definitely was a thing. Like you would have to go souvenir shopping. And now when I travel and I see those like high streets that have all these souvenir shops, I'm like, who is buying this? What even is this? I can't believe I used to buy stuff like this. Um, so yeah, I do occasionally buy souvenirs like you. Consumable souvenirs are my favorite, especially because for me, it's very unlikely that I'm going home after I leave a place. So it's not like I can get something and take it with me on the plane and then put it in my home because I do not have one. So usually, yeah, it's like a nice tea or chocolate or coffee or something that I'm bringing. Occasionally, it's an item of clothing that I need. So like I knew that I wanted to buy an alpaca sweater when I was in Peru because like everyone has them, and they're so cool. Um, so that was something that like I was looking forward to buying and got it, and it's quite light, folds up quite small so it could fit in my bag. So stuff like that, sometimes I will get an actual physical souvenir, but it's never like I used to like want to have like a spoon or something, or like occasionally it's like a ceramic or a print or a piece of art or something, but never something very souvenir. And I think I am now really picky about what and where I buy, because they have so few things. So if I've just stopped somewhere for a week, I probably won't buy. If somewhere hasn't been a really special place to me, I probably won't buy. And something that has been fun in recent years is that I now have some nieces and nephews. So I can buy them like fun little local toys and dolls and stuff and mail it back to them. And that feels like kind of, if I am itching to like buy something more souvenir, that kind of scratches that itch. But yeah, it's fun,
Cool.
and I
Yeah.
love, yeah, I do love going to markets and stuff, and yeah, so sometimes just like an item of clothing or a bag or something that I don't even really think of as a souvenir, but I suppose it is. Those can be really nice things to buy as well.
I still have from Krakow last year, which is not even a Polish thing. I still have like a phone charger that I had to buy
Yeah.
because mine broke. And every time I charge my phone, I remember my trip.
I
And that's maybe
love
not the
that.
best example because it's not like this local artisan thing, but it is like
Something
an object that
cool.
triggers a memory.
And yeah, and I think that's so important, right? Because you don't really want the thing necessarily. What you want is to remember this like happy time that you're having. So rather than, it's obviously nice if you can support a local artisan or a local economy, but I think what you really want is something that's going to jog that memory. I think photos do that really well. And I know you and I are both not on Facebook anymore, but I don't know about you, but my iPhone has now started telling me, like, oh, it's been a year since this photo, like doing that reminder thing, which has been kind of difficult in COVID because I'm like, oh gosh, I was in Vietnam this time last year, I was in Peru 2 years ago. Um, so yeah, I think for me, photos are just the number one souvenir, really, because that jogs my memory a lot. So yeah, I definitely don't feel the need to buy things everywhere I go. But yeah, phone charger is a great one, like just something that's gonna jog your memory. Well, thank you so much. This has been a lovely little chat about nomading and budget travel. Um, my book, The Nomadic Art of Budget Travel, is available on my website, brokeryoga.com/books. You can also search for it on Amazon. And Xandra also has a minimalist packing guide if you're interested. It's on heroinetraining.com. Yes.
Yes, there is a direct link at heroinetraining.com/pack. It is digital and takes up no physical space, and is my comprehensive guide to packing for short-term, long-term, whatever, whenever you will need to pack things again. And my work and my writing is on heroin training as well. And I was just thinking about how I am not on social media, but I have this digital archive on my website dating back to 2012 that jogs my memory of like when was I, where was I, and I have these photos and writings that I've chronicled of my travels and how they've woven into my home experiences too.
That's so lovely. I know we just finished, but yeah, I love that idea of creation as your souvenir because I also am a writer and love
Yeah.
writing about it to jog memories. But I think for photographers, for videographers, for painters or artists, any kind of creator can really create your own souvenir. And that would include also all your feelings of the place at the time as well.
Oh, what a beautiful note to end on. Thanks for wrapping that all up so nicely and for writing this great book. It's such a it's like a both a enjoyable story to experience your travel, anecdotes and memories, and also a practical guide that gets me want to like get out my pen and paper and start budgeting for the next time I can travel, because it feels like, yeah, I could stay on someone's couch.
Sometimes they have beds for you too, like spare bedroom.
What? Yeah. Okay.
The
All right.
possibilities are endless.
I'll to look for that.
Okay, thank you so much for this chat.
Thank you.
Mhm.